Hey everyone, today I'm in Kansas City and we're here to look and investigate and check out some old Bonnie and Clyde history. Find it pretty ironic that we're right near the Kansas City International Airport and there's a sign that says park and go. And if Bonnie and Clyde had done just that, things might have been different for the gang. Let me show you. So this sign was placed here in 2011, I believe, and it's the sign erected by the Historical Society of Platte County. And it's the former site of the Red Crown Tavern and tourist cabins. And as you look here, you can see a pretty good photo of the place. Get up close, you can see the gas pumps, little awning, Quaker State it says right there. Nice picture. It says in 1931, Emmett Breen built the Red Crown Tavern and tourist cabins west of here. And on July 19th, 1933, Platte County Sheriff Holt Coffey led a coalition of lawmen from the Platte County Sheriff's Office, Missouri Highway Patrol, and the Jackson County Sheriff's Office in an attempt to capture the fugitives, Bonnie and Clyde. Bonnie Parker, Clyde Barrow, Buck Barrow, and Blanche Barrow, and W.D. Jones had rented the two cabins. 13 lawmen surrounded them, but the gang shot their way out and escaped. However, Buck Barrow was shot in the head and was mortally wounded, and Blanche got blinded in one eye. Sheriff Coffey and two locals were also wounded, and this sign is placed here in tribute to the lawmen that tried to capture Bonnie and Clyde. Now, they were obviously outshot. I mean, whenever Clyde has a BAR and they've got these little pea shooter revolvers trying to go against it, it wasn't good. But like I said, they did get Buck, his brother, right here. And so this is a pivotal place in the story of Bonnie and Clyde. As I pan around behind the sign, there's this little makeshift lake pond with bricks lining it. The landscape of this whole area has changed quite a bit. And you can now see this parking lot and a new business here. This business would have been in the back of where the cabins were. But I want to show you something else. We're going to head over to this way and see what we can find. And it's going to surprise you a little bit. But first, we're going to tell a little bit of history on what happened here, a little bit more in detail than what this sign states. Because like I said, this is an important part of the history of Bonnie and Clyde and also the law enforcement. And then it's the start of their downfall, really. Start of the downfall of the gang. And they had already had some issues, which is kind of why they ended up here. The Red Crown Tavern and Red Crown Tourist Court was built in 1931 by Emmett Breen at the junction of US 71 and US 71 bypass, which is now Missouri Route 291. The red brick and tile tavern included a popular restaurant and ballroom. Behind the tavern was the tourist court, which was two small cabins connected by two garages. Today, this is located within the city limits of Kansas City. It's just northeast of the Kansas City International Airport exit off I-29 in Platte County. Now, Clyde chose this location because the roads went in several different directions, giving him the option of an easy escape. The gang had constantly been on the run, so this stop was really unusual for them. Clyde wanted a spot that they could hole up for several nights. You see, the previous weeks had been difficult on the gang. On June 10th, they had gotten in a car wreck in Wellington, Texas, and it had left Bonnie pretty badly burned. While the gang hid out and tried to nurse Bonnie in a Fort Smith, Arkansas tourist court, Buck Barrow and W.D. Jones were sent to raise funds. They ended up bungling the robbery and killed the town marshal of Alma, Arkansas. The police attention forced the gang to go on the move once again, despite Bonnie's dire condition. They had also been robbing small stores, service stations, and vending machines where they were getting small amounts of cash and tons of coins. By mid-July, Clyde was hoping they could find a place to rest for a few days. That's where the Red Crown comes in. The Red Crown attendant Delbert Crabtree thought it was odd when the shiny Ford V8 pulled into the service lot. A young man got out of the car and asked to see the two adjoining tourist cabins at the edge of the parking lot. There were two women in the car, and he had stated that one was his mother-in-law. Crabtree thought it was odd, as if the two women in the car did not seem old enough to fit the description that Clyde had stated. Crabtree then watched two men help a seemingly injured and petite woman into the cabin before backing the car into the garage, almost as if they were preparing for a quick getaway. The cabins were paid for using coins, and then once inside, they covered the windows up with newspaper, and he could see them occasionally peeking out every so often doing a scan of the parking lot. Crabtree informed his manager on duty, Neil Hauser. Hauser had even observed a young lady purchasing sandwich and beer for the gang, paying with only coins. Hauser did not think she looked like a criminal, but he did alert Captain William Baxter of the Missouri Highway Patrol. Captain Baxter in turn notified Platte County Sheriff Holt Coffey. Captain Baxter ran the plates on the vehicle and found out that it was indeed stolen. Coffey then suspicioned that it might be the Barrow Gang. Coffey then heard from Clinton Woodson, a local man who had been in the Platte City drugs. He and the pharmacist Louis Bernstein had witnessed a rather good-looking woman dressed in slinky riding pants enter the store. All of the men in the store immediately noticed her, and she purchased some medical supplies paying only in coins and was careful not to make any eye contact with any man in the store. Coffey had been warned to be on the lookout for a young gang who had purchased bandages and medicine for burns. Sheriff Coffey and Captain Baxter decided to form a posse to round up the gangsters. This consisted of 13 men, 6 from Platte County, 4 from Jackson County, and then 3 from the State Patrol. They decided to commence the operation at 1 a.m. so that the traffic from the busy area would have thinned out. Deputy George Highfill used an armored car to block the garage so the gang couldn't make their getaway. Sheriff Coffey approached the cabin on the left with his 6-shooter and an armored shield from a boilerplate. He knocked on the door so loudly it could be heard across the street at Slim's Castle, which was a service station. He then shouted, "Open up, in the name of the law!" Blanche immediately got up and stated, "Wait, we gotta put clothes on." Coffey took a step back, anticipating the worst. Suddenly, the windows from both cabins were smashed out and a barrage of bullets started flying. Many of them were directed at Sheriff Coffey himself, and it hit his shield, knocking him down to the ground. When this happened, his son Clarence was hit in the shoulder. By this time, the officers started firing back with Thompson machine guns, hitting the door of the cabins. Clyde was alternating firing out the door and the windows. Sheriff Coffey retreated more and was grazed across the neck twice. Clyde ordered W.D. Jones to ready the car. Jones went to the garage through an internal door. Buck and Clyde then noticed the car blocking the garage and started firing at it. The driver, George Highfill, had been hit in the leg and the horn started blaring. The other deputy in the car, Jim Thorpe, had his gun jammed from all the flying glass. Jim saw no other option than to shift the car in reverse and fall back. This now left the clearing for the bandits to escape. With the horn blaring, the officers thought this was some sort of sign for cease fire. Clyde then carried Bonnie to the car, and gunfire started firing once again towards the bandits. Buck emerged from his cabin, spraying fire everywhere while officers fled for cover. They in turn started firing back and hit Buck in the left temple, and it exited out his forehead. This knocked Buck to the ground. With Jones laying down cover fire, Clyde and Blanche loaded Buck into the car. They then made their getaway out of the parking lot. Lying at the end of the driveway was Platte City Deputy Tom Hollett. As the gang passed him, he fired a shotgun blast that shattered the rear window and sent shards of glass into Blanche's left eye, which ultimately left her blind in that eye. He knew that he had hit her when he heard her bloody screams. As the smoke cleared, the lawmen took stock of their assault. This was the largest gun battle with the outlaws to date, but injuries were minimal. Sheriff Coffey had 2 scratches on his neck from gunfire. Coffey's son Clarence was hit in the arm, and Deputy Highfill had wounds to both knees. In the cabin that Bonnie, Clyde, and Jones were in, they found the remnants of a medical bag that they stole from Dr. Fields several weeks before in Enid, Oklahoma, when they stole his car. There was also an arsenal of BARs and Colt 45 pistols that they got from the Enid Armory on July 7th. There was also a personal sidearm of Marshall Humphrey, whom Buck had killed in Arkansas on June 23rd. Bullet holes were everywhere, and the next day large crowds of sightseers gathered to witness these bullet holes and all the damage from the famous bandits. 4 days later, another firefight ensued outside of Dexter, Iowa. Buck was hit once again and Blanche was captured. Buck died 5 days later at King's Daughters Hospital in Perry, Iowa from complications of pneumonia after surgery. Sheriff Coffey brought Blanche back to Platte City, where she was held in jail and questioned by the FBI. She was charged with assault with intent to kill Sheriff Coffey. She pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 10 years in the Missouri State Penitentiary for women. Her sentence was commuted in 1939. The Tavern was a popular place before, but it was even more popular after the shootout. The cabins were visited by thousands. In 1945, the Red Crown Complex was purchased by the former Sheriff Coffey himself, who operated it successfully until 1950. In 1957, an accident knocked down the forecourt awning and damaged the gasoline pumps. 10 years later, a fire started in the kitchen and it destroyed most of the tavern. What was left was stripped by souvenir hounds. Following the release of the movie in 1967, merchants from Weston sold the bricks from the building for $1 each. Ultimately, it was the changing highways that ended the business, as construction of the nearby interstate demanded the demolition of the Red Crown and Slim's Castle in 1968. The shootout was depicted in the 1967 film Bonnie and Clyde, though the sign on the motel reads Platte City, Iowa, and not Missouri. So I thought I would drive along in the parking lot and just try to get a feel for the area. And I parked on this backside. That's where my car is. And it looked like they had been doing some excavating here. So I went along through here and I could see remnants of an old road and a sign. But I don't think that road was here when Bonnie and Clyde would have been in the area. I think that was a later addition, maybe a highway or something. I'll have to show you that in a little bit. But I thought I would comb the grounds and see what I could find. Found something interesting. So when you read about the tavern, you can see that this would have been on the backside. Not at the time, but later on would have been on the backside of where the tavern was. So it's really difficult to figure out where exactly it sat, or at least for me. But I started combing through the grass and all this stuff, and there's wiring and things like that. To what? I don't know. But as I started looking through some of this, and it gets kind of shady because here's this hill and that pole's leaning. Not exactly sure what those are powering anymore, but they look old to me. Or older anyways. They don't have the really old insulators up top like back in the Bonnie and Clyde day, but they're not new either. So they've been here a while. And I know that Tavern was here for a while, but I thought I would look around and just sort of comb the ground. And it's pretty interesting because I found some remnants of the red brick right there. And I am positive that that's what that's from. Is the old red brick tavern. And there's one right there. You can see it just kind of sunk in the ground there. Don't know if I can pull that out, but I do think I'll take a little piece here from that tavern. I found this piece of cement here, like maybe part of the foundation or maybe a sidewalk or something like that. I thought I would see if I could actually pry that brick up. Wanted to see if there were any markings on it, you know, if it said where it was made or something. That could possibly give us a clue. I definitely think this is a red brick from the tavern. You can see the mortar on it right there. Anyways, took a little piece from it, but if someone wanted the whole piece, it's right there. I'm sure there are other ones in here too. I thought we might walk around and just see if I could see any others in here. Goes to show you never know what you can find out in these things. Little pieces of history still remain. There's been little chunks of cement all over the place. But you can see the tracks from the bulldozer as they've turned it up. Here's a cinder block right here. And some more blocks right there. Piece of one right there. All sorts of stuff in here. Big old chunks of concrete and just pushed up against that pole like that. And then the pole's kind of leaning. Let's see what this is. This is red. It looks more like a clay pot to me. And there are other pieces of it right there. But I guess it could be possible that was some sort of, you know, chimney or decoration on it. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know for a fact if that is part of it. I just thought since I saw all this dirt and ground that's been upturned that I would come over and take a look. I am seeing little chunks of red, like little bitty red pieces of brick, old asphalt, stuff like that. It's really difficult to know what you're looking at and what it's from. Yeah, look here. See this? This stuff's all over the place. Little remnants of something red. Pretty interesting though. Sure, there's a lot in this dirt pile. But I think what has happened, and this is just a guess, and I'm guessing by the level of what that sign is up there. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think that this was pushed up against there. I think it's been dug out, because as you look down there, that also has a mound around it. And I think somewhere around through here, along these telephone poles, because I don't think those are used anymore, these power lines. I wouldn't want to touch them or throw something up in there to find out, but I think this was the old road that went through here right in front of the tavern. And I think the ground level was much higher. As I'm thinking about it, it's just something that seems possible to me, that the ground was higher and they probably have excavated all this out and made the ground around it lower now. And then it just looks like it sort of goes down a little bit. But like I said, I am not an expert. Just looking around at all the pieces though, it's pretty fascinating, because that is definitely a piece of brick right there from the building, and there's pieces all over the place. We clearly found a large red brick. I've seen halves of other bricks. And what else could it be? You know, with that red brick tavern here. Pretty interesting. I thought I would show you though. Who knows? Somewhere in through here where I'm panning the camera would have been the tavern and the cabins. But you can see major chunks of concrete. Like here's something here. It might have been part of the old roadway, or it could have been foundations to the tavern or the cabins, stuff like that. And they just never hauled it away. We're gonna make my way back to the car, but I'll show you what I'm talking about. As far as an old roadway that's no longer in use, I do not think that it was part of the roadway that would have been part in front of the cabin, in front of the tavern that was here. I think this is just something that maybe got onto the highway. I don't know if it was part of the interstate or not. I'm not from this area, so I'm not exactly sure how the layout is. What you could do though is pull old aerial photographs and see there's old wiring. So you can see old wiring. One thing you want to be careful of, if you're out here in the summer, obviously you got to worry about probably snakes. But if you're out here at any time, there's all kinds of uneven ground and soft ground. And then these wires that your feet can get caught up in and you can trip. You can see it all over the place, and there's all sorts of wires. But this is guard railing, and what I think is part of a highway or maybe the early part of the interstate, and then they rebuilt it. You can see all kinds of pipes and bars, and there's even an old power line sign right over there. But that's part of the guardrail, and you can see remnants of the guardrail that's right here. And this is part of the ramp. I think that you got, probably, my guess is maybe you got onto the old I-29 is what that is, Interstate 29, or just a highway that used to be there before I-29. But you can see all this asphalt here, and then you can see this sign, Hoy Excavating, and then it says Smithville, Missouri, building communities and providing construction services. But this old sign is here right on this old entrance pad is what it looks like to me, with the guardrail. Oh, here's a clue. See, I didn't see this when I came up through here because I was kind of looking on the dirt mounds, not sure how this was. But it does have an old sign there. If you look, it says Junction 29. So it's like as if you would have gotten off right through here or something, because that sign is facing me, so the traffic would have went the way that we are walking. Isn't that fascinating? So it was routed a little differently. I'm on a big asphalt pile here. Did not see that sign when I first came through because I was kind of coming up through here and I saw that it was grass, and I just kept going. I tried to dig through this grass to see if I could see asphalt or something, but I got down to dirt underneath this grass. But look at that old, no, that's not I-29. So it is some sort of highway. Someone from the area would be able to tell me more. But that says Junction 291, an old sign. Isn't that cool? Huh. Look at this. Somebody's note. Brian, please take these coats back to the office. No one claims them. Thanks, Cheryl. Might be something from that office over there, or any one of these other offices. But here you can see this old guardrail, and then this Junction 291 sign. The historic marker is right over there, just for reference. So right there where that guardrail is, and then a little bit further down is this electrical box. Nothing much left. Looks like all the fuses and stuff inside are gone. It's just all busted up and broken, and you can see the wires exposed. But this is connected to the power lines. They go all the way down that way. As I came back by for one more look at the sign, it just occurred to me that they have placed red bricks. They're newer red bricks than what we were finding, but those are at the base of the sign. Just sort of a nice tribute to the Red Crown Tavern and tourist cabins. So we are now in Weston, Missouri. This is a small town. I think I saw the population was 1,600 when I came into town. It says it's a historic town. Pretty interesting. You pass wineries and stuff like that going in. But this is the final resting place for Platte County Sheriff Holt Coffey, who was involved in the shootout, and also his wife Bessie M. Holt was born in 1891 and died in 1964, and Bessie was born in 1902 and 1965. From 1950 to 1954, he was the night marshal of Platte City, and in 1955 he became the county judge of the Eastern District of Platte County. On February 23, 1956, he was appointed the presiding judge by Governor Phil M. Donnelly upon the death of Judge William Anderson. He was elected to the office in 1958, and his term expired in 1965. However, Judge Holt Coffey died at the age of 72 on January 9, 1964. He was stricken with a heart attack at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon at the Smithville Community Hospital. So anyways, thanks for tuning in and watching this little adventure. Found a little bit of history to do with Bonnie and Clyde and Blanche and Buck. Interesting, kind of weird that it's still here and lingering around in the ground.